1976, the birth of a career, FredRubenfeld.
1976, the bicentennial, the birth of the nation, but really the birth of my career working with teenagers. I was a wilderness counselor instructor for a pretty plain, ordinary name group called Wilderness Travel Group, WTG, in this camp in upstate New York that took kids out from the city to backpack, climb, or canoe. The group was wild, just crazy. And we'd be out of this camp for 5 or 6 days. We'd come back and shower, get ready for the next trip, take a van ride somewhere, put us somewhere, and get out 5 or 6 days. We were known in this camp as the Savages. And we lived in an area off of the camp, the edge of civilization, called the Pit. And it was an incredible summer, and this is where I learned my lessons of how to deal with teenagers. My first trip, we were backpacking from a camp, and we went to a lean-to, and we went to sleep, and this kid, who was a little jumpy, edgy, nervous, named BJ or TJ or LJ, you would call him ADHD today, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. But then we just called him a nervous, twitchy kid. And he tried to go to sleep, and he gets up and goes, Rube, never been out of the city before, man. I've never been in the country, man. It's too quiet here. I can't get to sleep. And I tried to talk him down a little bit, and that didn't work. And I go to my backpack, and I take some stuff out, and I say, here, DJ or LJ, take 2 of these. And he takes 2 of these, but don't tell anybody about it. And he went to sleep, and the next day he wakes up and goes, whoa, Rue, what were those? Those really knocked me out. Don't tell me. Okay. Well, vitamin C became my drug of choice for the rest of the summer. And I was able to make stuff up very nicely. Next kid that influenced me was a kid named Darnell. And we were going rock climbing, and Darnell was a really intelligent, smart guy, and he was so smart that he figured out all he had to say all summer was, your mother. It's not my fault. Darnell, time to get to the van. Your mother. Darnell, let's go, get going here. It's not my fault. So what you had to do with Darnell was proceed to figure out what questions to ask him. Darnell, who's the prettiest woman in the world? Your mother! All right. Darnell, who's at the end of the road? Your mother! Well, make sure my mother's safe and tie her in real well. And once he got past those questions and his answers, he was very intelligent and gave great discussions about things like, what about the Vietnam War, Darnell? Not my fault. I know that, but whose fault was it? And he would get into it. The third most influential teenager I had was Mona. And this was on a canoe trip. And somehow I got stuck with Mona, who had a voice like scratching the blackboard with her fingernails. And Mona would say, oh, do I have to paddle? How much further? And she paddled with about as much enthusiasm as a beauty queen wave there. And she just talked about some suburbanite things, and I don't know how she got in this group. And we were paddling for a day and a half, and I didn't drown her. And luckily, though, we came around the bend, because we were the last canoe in this group, came around the bend, and we always talked about people communicating in a canoe, the bow person, the stern person. Well, Darnell and PJ, LJ, RJ were in a canoe together because no one else wanted to canoe with them. And they were communicating. They were standing up in the canoe, hitting each other over the head with their paddles. Your mother! Your mother! It's not my fault. It is your fault. Your mother! Your mother! And they just were communicating very effectively. I had to play the adult and break it up. Darn. And Mona and I canoed over, and I solved the problem by switching LJ or RJ or TJ and Mona. And so RJ, he got into his hyperactivity mode, and we were canoeing, and I just had to steer, and I didn't have to do much. And Darnell and Mona, we'd come back and check them out, and Mona was in her monologue about some suburbanite thing, and shirts or friends or something, and Darnell would just go, your mother, not my fault. And it was a great communication. They got along just fine the rest of the time. So I learned my lessons that summer from these three kids. From LJ or PJ, I learned C equals MSU. Creativity equals make stuff up. From Darnell, your mother, not my fault, your mother. I learned ask the right questions. And from Mona, oh, do I have to paddle? I learned that I had patience, and that steadied me well for my next 30 years. So 1976, I was a savage, I lived in the pit, and through the enigma and inconsistencies of teenagers, I learned to work with that tribe. Thank you.